It is a downward spiral. The customer is not able to pay because you took their jobs from them. And they are in an economically depressed area where all they have is a Walmart. Well, they're not going to be able to pay for American made. Did that to them.
Yeah.
They used to be able to.
Now, you've probably heard of farmers markets where you can buy produce direct from farms or farm to table restaurants. Well, here's an interesting concept. It's called farm to store. And here's how it works. There's a company called Redland Cotton. They have a cotton farm in Alabama. They process that cotton. It's developed into bedding, sheeting, and other products, and it's sold direct to consumers. Now, they've been around for a little over a decade now, and they've done quite well. They found a market in the United States. Their customers say they love the quality, they love the fact that it's locally made. And to tell you this story of how they got started, we're going to have on Anna Brakefield. Anna is one of the founders of Redland Cotton, and she'll join us next on the Manufacturing Report. Hey, Anna, welcome to the Manufacturing Report podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about Redland Cotton.
So Redland Cotton is a very unique farm-to-home, direct-to-consumer business. We take the cotton we grow on our family farm and see the process all the way through from spinning to weaving, finishing, and the final cut and sew, and then ship it direct to our customers, and it's all done in the United States. So
Wow.
that's us in a nutshell, and it's what makes us unique. It's the hardest part about the business, but it's why people shop with us.
Yeah, I was gonna say that business model, A, hard to pull off. B, you have to have a lot of intent. But
Yeah.
C, I imagine that it also is a conversation starter with a lot of customers who are pleasantly surprised by that.
Yeah, it's the unique identifier for us and the passion point that pushes people over the edge to choose to buy a set of sheets with us as opposed to a competitor.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you raised up about 1,000 things that I want to talk about, but why don't we start with the dirt, with the soil, with the cotton? Tell us a little bit about your family's history with the cotton farm and the cotton business, because that has evolved quite a bit in the United States.
It has, and a lot has evolved recently. My dad started his farm in the early 80s, and he named it Redland Farms due to the red clay soil that we farm here in North Alabama. And my grandfather started the original farm place, and he moved his family from Tennessee to Moulton, Alabama, because he wanted his kids to learn the value of hard work. And the best way to learn that value was on a farm.
Indeed.
And so it was really just a hobby farm, not row crops or anything like that. There were 6 kids in that family, and my dad was the only one that took up farming. So he grew the farm from a couple hundred acres to now they farm over 5,000 acres. Cotton and corn, they rotate, but usually about 3,000 acres of cotton is planted every year. My brothers farm with him now. I have 2 younger brothers. And we also gin all the cotton ourselves in our own cotton gin. So that's the background on the farm. Back to the kind of vertical
Yeah.
integration that we're doing now with Redland Cotton. My dad put in the cotton gin in like 1993, maybe. And it was in an effort to have more control over the process. So I think that process and wanting control from start to the finish has kind of been a recurring theme of this family.
Yeah, indeed. So can I ask you about, like, before Redland Cotton came along and that vertical integration, like, where did the cotton go? Did it go into mills in the United States? Was it exported? Kind of what was the market for it?
It was sold as a commodity.
Yeah.
And as big as Redland cotton has gotten, we're probably using between 20 to 30% of the total crop just towards our own product. So the growth within our own farm is crazy. But, once the farmer sells his cotton, he has very little control
Yeah.
over where it goes. And I believe the stat was last year, the United States only milled about 4 million pounds of cotton out of the many, many that were made. So a large majority is shipped overseas. And the cotton farmer is having to compete um, with a Chinese or Indian or Pakistani grown cotton. And that's where all of the cotton is milled. And their input cost is a lot more than those farmers. And so what the American farmer is at this juncture where it almost doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I
So
like to I have a bit of a background in agribusiness, even though I do manufacturing policy now, and I always like to tell people it's one of those farming is one of the few industries where you have no control over your input costs. You pay what you pay for your input costs, and you have no control over the price it's sold for. That's set by somebody else too, and it's a really hard way to make a living. So much
very
is out of
hard.
your hands. Yeah.
Yes. You have to have a lot of faith in God to be a farmer, I'm afraid.
Yeah. So let me ask you just about this decision to stand up Redland Cotton and to do this vertical integration. I guess, was this a spark of ingenuity? Was it in a time of crisis? I'm curious about how this came about because it is really interesting and fascinating.
So it was my dad's idea. And he came to me with the idea. My background is in design and marketing and advertising, and I've been working in New York doing that. I had recently gotten married and moved to Nashville, and I wasn't very happy with what I was doing. And he approached me with this idea, and it seemed like a perfect fit to use the skills that I had in the family business, sort of. So we started working on the supply chain. It was very important for us to have it be made in America. I think that if the American farmer had a market in the United States so that they could get a premium for their cotton and not rely on the global market, I
Yeah.
think that that could flip the script. But right now, the mills are just so few. So that was the real. Not only was it a key identifier for making Redland cotton really unique, but it was also mission based in that
Mhm.
regard. So we set out to create the supply chain in January of 2016. By October of that year, we had our first product to sell. So we were able to go to market in Q4 and kind of get proof of concept that first year.
Yeah. And I wonder how was the process of finding the processors for this and that vertical integration, like the mills and the yarning and everything else that goes into making the final product? What was that like? Was it a bit of a treasure hunt?
Oh yeah. For some reason, these mills you have to like uncover. They're not like out there for whatever reason. And my dad spent a lot of time on the phone
Mhm.
contacting people because he is a farmer. He has a relationship with Cotton Incorporated that's supposed to serve as a
Oh, sure.
resource for farmers. So that was kind of the first step. He and I went there, took cotton grades to them, and said, what can we do with the cotton that we're growing on our farm? And they kind of helped us steer the direction slightly and get us hooked up with certain mills. But, the mills that we were meeting with, they're big, primarily family owned businesses. So it took a lot of pitching of this concept. And I remember we got every single vendor, spinner, weaver, finisher at the same spot at Text Process in Atlanta that year. We all kind of stood in a circle. We were like, okay, we're all going to do this. And everybody agreed to it. And we kind of went forth from there. But it was Parkdale Mills, Hamrick Mills, and Yates Bleachery that all came together to make it happen that first year.
Well, that's great. And then from that point, how long did it take to get products to market? Because I know that you have to do design and, do all the prototyping, and then, that there's a back end of the process. But when were you able to launch and offer some products to customers?
It was a little maybe unconventional in how I went about it. The whole time that we were making this first run of fabric, I was blogging about it, I was posting about it, and I made it possible to buy a set of our sheets on pre-order the summer before we even had product to take a photo of.
Oh,
And I sold the product off of charcoal drawings I had done myself.
nice.
And my dad did a lot of outreach to different agriculture companies to place orders for these sheets as like Christmas gifts. So by the time we got our first shipment of bed sheets in October, we had pre-orders close to like 200 sets of sheets. And I just remember that was such a big deal, getting that product in on a single pallet and unboxing it and printing labels and making that first shipment of product. But yeah, I mean, we just didn't really waste any time trying to make it perfect. That first launch, it was like, come on, see the process, and you can get the first iteration when it drops, and then I guess you can see it for yourself.
I have to imagine, Anna, that one of the advantages versus some entrepreneurs who have an idea and then contract it out and it's overseas is that you were able to easily communicate and work with your entire, kind of production and finishing base there if there were any challenges. They were all, I imagine, pretty close by.
What I say to anyone who is looking to, particularly in textiles, I mean, that's really all I know, make things in the United States, it is all so relationship based.
Yeah.
You are putting a face with a name and showing up in front of somebody to make it happen, where I feel like it's very transactional overseas. I get emails every day from plants in Pakistan and India and China that's like, we can sell you XYZ of this.
Right.
It's like so easy, and it's just more work in America, but you're there and you get to communicate with them face to face.
Yeah. So you started with that initial order, and it was bedding. So walk us through, because I know you're offering more products, and you seem to have expanded quite a bit. What's that process been like?
Due to the textile industry in the United States, there's no vertically integrated plants.
Yeah.
So what I have tried to do is, on the cases of our bedding, we weave the same fabric and we make quilts with it, duvet covers and shams, multiple different prints, multiple different colors, and it's all the same fabric.
Yeah.
Our first order with Hamrick Mills, I think, was 20,000 yards of fabric, and that felt so big at that time because that'll make a lot of sheet sets.
Yeah.
And then be tasked with the responsibility of selling all of those. And then this year we're looking at around 700,000
Wow. Yeah.
yards. Yeah. So, and we've been able to grow businesses in the case of like blankets.
Mm.
That actually, from a supply chain perspective, we're still going to separate mills to do the spinning, the twisting, the dyeing, and then to a weaver, but they can work in smaller quantities. With making the bed sheet, you had to make an initial large capital investment. The blanket, we've been able to grow that in smaller increments. But the one vendor that we started out with, they've been able to double their workforce since we started working with them in 2021. And that to me is why we are doing what we're doing. We've been able to create 2 cut and sew plants of our own.
Oh, wow.
So in 2020, we were just having a bottleneck and not being able to, and I think a lot of e-commerce companies had the same phenomenon happen in 2020 where everybody was shopping online and no products were being made. That was when we started our first plant in Tylertown, Mississippi.
Hmm.
And they're up to about 25, 27 employees there. And then we started another cut and sew plant of our own in our Moulton warehouse that has about 15 people in it.
Okay.
So we're able to control so much of the process, and it's been really interesting. We're trying to implement an ERP system right now to help us better track our process, because right now it's all in spreadsheets and it's kind of complicated and not exactly as scientific as we would like it. And meeting with these companies and trying to explain our process to them, and they're like, this is insane. This is crazy. What do you mean you're shipping product over every hour from your cut and sew that is divided by like a metal curtain? But that, I think, we're able to stay nimble. We're able to be extremely flexible, use all the fabric to our advantage. We're not relying on a third party vendor that's
Hmm.
just going to hide waste. But that I think is also a great advantage. And it also, I'm kind of just going on right now, but to me, what we have been able to do in 10 years, next year will be our 10-year anniversary, is proof that you can make it here. And it is not easy. And sometimes you have to make your own capital investments to make it happen, like 2 cut and sew plants. But it can be done. It just
Yeah.
takes a little bit more.
Let me ask you about that, because I've talked to, again, lots of entrepreneurs who stood up businesses in the United States, in many cases defying the odds. I'm wondering, yeah, how much you sought out, like, is there help out there, either from industry or from local government or state government? And I don't mean like direct cash necessarily, but even like know-how or loan guarantees or things like that, or just like matchmaking for finding, suppliers. Like what tools were you able to utilize?
Every time that I've looked at some sort of government or agency type of resource, it's just, it was just slow you down.
Hmm.
I guess we just haven't ever been willing to wait on that type of resource. I will note that when we were on the search for where to put a cut and sew plant, the local government in Tylertown, Mississippi was so accommodating,
Hmm.
and hosted us and fed us lunch and made us this amazing offer, helped us find a plant manager. That investment by the local government in their community, and talking with us and encouraging us to come as a small business, like, to me, that's the most help that we've gotten from a government
Interesting.
agency.
Well,
Yeah.
that's good. They rolled out the red carpet and said,
Yeah.
"Yeah, yeah, come on in."
Yeah.
Whi which
Um,
is which is not surprising, because honestly, I think, a mayor, someone locally would rather have like a factory than almost anything else, because those jobs are gonna pay for other things basically that can
yes.
come in, right? And I wanted to ask you just about the importance of Made in America, and what it means to you, but also what it means to your customers, because they're obviously, there's a lot of bedding options out there. Very few of them are made in the United States, start to finish. Um, so talk a bit about first how you approach that, and then what the customer feedback has been to all of that.
It started as a key identifier for how we would promote and
Mhm.
talk about the brand. Um, and as we have grown and gone on with this business, it has become much more mission based.
Hmm.
I think we are very transparent with our customers. It's in blogs that we update on quarterly, state of agriculture, state of the textile industry. And when a plant closes, we tell our customers. When we're able to add jobs, we tell our customers, and that, I think, makes them feel more connected and involved with this mission to keep textiles in America and be a case study on how you can do it. So it started out very, I think, from my marketing mind, a messaging point, and then it turned more into a mission. I think it's very important, and with every customer survey, it is the reason
Hmm.
why a customer chooses us over another. There's definitely value. And I know that, when the tariffs started this year, there were several articles where X brand, did a study with their customer and asked, do you see value add in an American made product? And uh, no, no, the customer doesn't see the value. And I think it depends, obviously, on that customer's ability to pay.
Yeah,
Um,
that's fair.
but for me, and I explained this to a lawmaking person recently, I think it is a downward loop spiral. Like the customer is not able to pay because you took their jobs from them. And they are in an economically depressed area where all they have is a Walmart because their jobs left. Well, they're not going to be able to pay for American made. Did that to them.
Yeah,
They used to be able to.
yeah.
It's just a falsehood to me. If we
Hmm.
were able to actually increase manufacturing in the United States so it became less laborious to freight your cotton from this place to this place to this place, and making bedding became more of a special project, or less of a special project and more of, this is something that we do, it
Hmm.
would definitely drive the price down.
Yeah,
Nothing gets me going like hearing politicians say that we don't need the sewing jobs. We
yeah.
don't need the needle jobs.
Yeah, that
That's not
kinda
what we're
burns my
trying to bring
blood
back.
too. Yeah, yeah, they're trying to project some philosophy onto the United States, without thinking about the consequences. You know, you obviously are out there in the you're selling direct to consumer, you're online. That industry got totally disrupted because of this, like, loophole that was in the law that allowed all these goods to come directly from China or wherever without paying any tariffs, without any inspection, and would just show up at someone's doorstep, and it's like, "Great, I got these impossibly priced things here." Yeah, they fall apart 6 months later, but I felt good about paying virtually nothing about it. Now,
Okay.
that loophole's been closed, at least for now. I imagine you might have some feelings about that.
I do. It has become such that even shopping on Amazon and sometimes even on Etsy, you can be thinking that you're shopping from at the least, you would be getting something from an Amazon warehouse.
Right,
And
right.
then you get a shipment that is dirty and nasty and it shipped directly from China. It's just training the customer
Mm,
to expect things to be a certain way. And to me, it's less about getting that cheap product and more about the American psyche of what they expect to receive, both from a price and timing standpoint. And it's very challenging to get that same customer that shops there to come and shop with you. But I think what we're doing is, yes, we are selling a great product, but we're selling a mission, we're selling a movement. It's less about trying to compete to the bottom. And I think that's where we're leaning, as if you are able to have any sort of choice in where you're spending your dollars. I think more and more we are trying to identify with brands that share our same values, and that choice and ability to do so is great. And there's always going to be people that are striving for the bottom, and that just the de minimis thing um, fed into that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But do I think it's really going to, like, closing the de minimis loophole, is that going to bring jobs back to the United States? I
Yeah.
don't think so.
Probably not on its
Um,
own. It would take that
no.
and some other things too. Yeah.
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 To me, that whole thing was more of a poisoning of the customer psychology.
It stops a bad thing from happening, and
Mhm.
probably exploitation from happening too, that customers are paying for. But it probably will take some other aspects of policy and changes in consumer behavior to really kind of drive more jobs.
Mhm.
I do see, I mean, y'all are a great example, and there are others out there. I know I've talked to them, like, American Giant in the hoodie
Yeah.
space, people who have intentionally done both this kind of vertical integration, but also end-to-end made in America supply chain, and have been quite successful at it.
Yeah.
So you've established kind of like a proof of concept, I think, for others who want to step in and try to find their space in the market as well.
Yeah, I hope so. And I don't feel like I gatekeep anything. There's another brand that's wanting to create some bedding here, and I'm with them in the process. Like, text me, what problems are you having, and I will talk to whoever I know to talk to try to help you get it started, because it is kind of a bear,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
better or for worse. But no, I hope that it can be a model, and a model for bigger brands too, to kind of niche down and create a customer that really values making things here and will pay more for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to add, this is one of these cliched questions, but I think in this case it's quite important. Like, if you could step back, 10 years ago and give yourself advice at that point in time about how things were going to work out and what problems you were going to face, what do you wish you knew then that you know now about all of this?
What Redland Cotton has done that I think is different from a lot of brands is really, really focused on the manufacturing and product development. Um, Probably over more sophisticated marketing effort.
Mhm.
And our operations team and marketing team is exceptionally small, 3 to 4 people.
Mhm.
And I see a lot of other e-commerce brands that have grown that side, and
Okay.
maybe the product focus is second. And I think if I could have if I could do it again or give advice to my younger self, um, I think I would have tried to run the two things in more parallel, and build up that side with the manufacturing side. Because we have self-funded this, I think that makes it really hard, because a lot of capital allocation is going towards the product
Sure.
and diverted away from more operations-based things. But, as I'm growing a more mature business and adding more people around me to create a more supported leadership team, it helps move the product. It helps us make better decisions about buying the product. And so much of that I did largely on my own,
Mm.
leading up to the last 2 years. And so I think that's the only thing that I would really do different.
Oh yeah. Well, look, I would give my younger self lots of advice. So, so that's good. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, that's only on like one aspect of my life, but yeah.
I wonder, Anna, if there was a moment where you all, because I know farming, man, it's like the tension is high always. What's the weather going to be like? What's the commodity prices? You have an eye on that and everything else. But with the business that you've established, I wonder if there was a moment where you said, "Aha, I think we've figured it out and we've kind of nailed it." And we hit and I don't know whether it was some media outlet that caught on to you or just some breakthrough, but I'm wondering if there was that moment for you and Redland Cotton.
I feel like it's been stages of moments. I can identify 2019 as the first like really profitable year.
Okay.
Um, 2020 starting to really see some growth. There was a lot of learning lessons in 21 and 22, and the economy was rough.
Oh yeah,
And I mean,
very
it's still
rough.
kind of, but just a lot of uncertainty there. But then we started advertising on Fox News in 2024. But I think that media buy really has allowed us to see consistent growth um, in the 20% plus year over year.
Wow.
And it really feels like the brand and the business has been taken to another level with that. 2023 to 2024 is when we started seeing ourselves in a more um, like an adult.
Great. Couple rapid fire questions for you. I see you're an Auburn grad.
Yes,
You Auburn football fan?
of course. Yes. My
You
husband and
looked at me
I,
like I
I'm
was like, what are you come some kind of yeah. All right. That's good. How they
yeah.
how they going to do this year? Yeah, you have any predictions?
Wow. I know we're all just like standing to the side, just hoping that they don't mess it up. But it's a unique feeling to be in Alabama and be an Auburn fan, and then Alabama's not doing so well.
Yeah, they aren't. Yeah, this might be the year
So
for
I
Auburn.
don't even know how to feel about that. But no, my husband and I met at Auburn, and we started dating in 2010 when Cam Newton was the quarterback.
Oh, fantastic. All
Yeah, and
right.
went to the national championship. So um, we'd love to see Auburn do it again, but
All
we'll see.
right. Well, I hope they roll through the SEC. That's
Yes.
all I got to say. Did you ever help out on the farm? And if you did, like what was your favorite chore?
I really didn't. I mean, we spent a lot of time in the summers at my grandparents' house, and I mean, we strung beans and shucked corn and rode four wheelers all over the place. And I mean, that's a very unique growing up experience. We would have friends over, and back when cotton was harvested in those modules that were like large rectangles,
Oh
it's now
yeah.
in these like big rolls, so you
Yeah.
can't play in it
Right.
now. But we used to go and just like jump and play in the bales, and like that's like not many people get to do that.
Very nice. Last question, and I noticed this looking at the website too, for Redland Cotton, is that your products are beautiful. And that's something that sets them apart is the design. So what's your what's your secret sauce there?
Well, there are other brands that make bedding in the United States. And what I wanted to do was really differentiate Redland Cotton, have it be artistic and have it not only be a great product, but also be beautiful. So we have partnered with other Southern artists to make prints that we sell, and partnered with our mills to do some product development and use their resources. And I think as a result of that, we've been able to get out there in partnerships that have really allowed the brand to grow. Banana Republic came to us 2 years ago, and we did a collaboration with them. Colonial Williamsburg reached out this year, and
Oh,
we're doing a collaboration with them for the nation's 250th birthday. And I
amazing.
think, yeah, and I think without that artistic element of just another step above, I don't think we would receive those calls. For me, that's the one of the ways that I kind of get artistic creative energy out. Um, when a lot of the other things I do are in Excel spreadsheets and kind of, more operations based, and that is my outlet to still get some creativity out. But I think that's just yet another key identifier for Redland Cotton that makes us successful is that beautiful artistic quality.
Anna, thanks so much for taking some time with us today and sharing the story of Redland Cotton for our listeners. We appreciate it.
It has been an awesome opportunity, and I really appreciate it.